What's up guys, my name's Brandon and iOS 14.2 Beta 2 was released for both developers and public beta testers earlier in the week, and I just wanted to give you guys an update on how the software has been running for me so far on my iPhone 11 Pro and on my iPhone XR. So Beta 1 brought a lot of new music related features, and Beta 2 really just tweaked those features and kind of just built on those while also resolving a few bugs. But there are also some additional new features and changes that I found as well. And then I also wanted to talk about some people having performance issues on this latest beta as well. So let's go ahead and start off with some additional new changes here in 14.2 Beta 2. So if you guys watched my What's New video earlier this week, you would know that in the suggestions up here, basically when I was not playing any music, so if I would just go out of music and go up to where it says not playing, when I would haptic press on that, you guys saw in Beta 1, it just showed a blank screen right here. Basically just showed like a glyph of an iPhone right there, and it did not show any of this music right here. It didn't show me any suggestions or anything that I recently played, which by the way, this is just recently played. It's not suggested music, it's just things that you have recently played. So it didn't show me this at all. And I even rebooted my device, I closed out of music, I played music, and still nothing showed up until like hours later. And then eventually it showed up and got back to normal. So it seems like I was one of the very few people who had this issue, but for some reason it has been fixed now. That is definitely a bug, that was a bug, but it appears that it's been fixed, and hopefully it doesn't revert back to that in Beta 3. But you'll also notice that we have a slightly new look here as well with this platter. So it's a little bit more narrow and it just looks better overall. And I just really like the look of this. This looks so much better than iOS 14. Like just everything about this. I love the way this looks compared to iOS 14.0 and just of course previous versions of iOS. I really like what Apple is doing here with this platter and just all the changes to music in general here in iOS 14.2. I'm a very big fan of. And of course we did also have this icon change down here as well. I did talk about that in the first video though. Now of course we did get new emojis with iOS 14.2 Beta 2, but I just wanted to share one of the ones that I really like and really sums up 2020 in one emoji. So that's this emoji right here, where it's just basically an emoji smiling with a tear. So I think that was a pretty funny new emoji. And of course we got the ninja. We have things like the Santa hat emoji. We have the boba tea, which is pretty big for a lot of people as well. So just some pretty cool new emojis here in iOS 14.2. Now I know a lot of people don't care about emojis, but a lot of people do as well. So I just wanted to touch on those again in this video. Now, anyways, I did also want to talk about the new music recognition, the Shazam toggle here in the control center. This has actually been improved here in Beta 2. So of course, in my What's New video, I never really had time to mess around with it. Not a lot of time at least to mess around with it. But since Beta 2 has been out, I've actually used this quite a few times and I've noticed some improvements here with it as well. So you can see there, it listened for a little bit because it was listening to my voice, seeing if that was a song. But basically I've noticed that in Beta 2, it detects music faster and also at lower volume. So for some reason in Beta 1, sometimes I would have to turn the volume up a lot for my phone to actually hear it and kind of detect the music. But now the volume doesn't really need to be that loud at all and it will pick it up. So it seems like there's just some improvements to it. And again, it does detect the music faster as well. There's even one time where it was just the instrumental and it detected it without hearing any of the lyrics. So that's what I like to see. I like to see these improvements here with the music recognition. Now it does also work with AirPods and AirPods Pro in as well, or pretty much any headphones. So if you have headphones in and you press that, it will still, show you the music that's playing through your AirPods right now. So if you're like watching a show and some, a song is playing in that show and you want to Shazam it, you could do that and it will tell you what song is playing in that show, which is very, very useful because that's a lot of times where I personally use Shazam. So it'll be interesting to see how much more that improves throughout the iOS 14.2 beta cycle. Now, one other thing that I never mentioned in my Beta 1 or Beta 2 video is actually a new feature inside of the magnifier application. So if you go into your settings and to accessibility and then to magnifier and you turn this on, of course you will get an application on your home screen. And if we go ahead and open up that application right here and go to the settings, you will see we have a new toggle down here, or a new control rather, for people detection. And if you go ahead and tap plus right there and add it to your secondary controls inside of this application, you'll see you have some options down here for people detection as well. And you can change it from meters, feet, the sound pitch distance right here as well. And you can choose what type of feedback you want your iPhone to give you. And if you're confused as to what this is, Apple actually tells you if you read this right here. So it says, your iPhone can let you know when it detects people nearby with sound, speech, and haptic feedback. feedback will be more frequent when the person is closer to you. So this is very beneficial for, of course, social distancing. So maybe that's why Apple included this. So maybe if you're, blind and somebody is close to you, you will now know with, feedback. So if you would maybe get a sound, you would maybe get a haptic vibration and you would feel that and know somebody is close to you. There's a lot of use cases for this, and it's actually pretty cool. And I think a pretty underrated feature here that not a lot of people are really talking about and really understand how cool this feature is. So I like this new feature here in the magnifier application in iOS 14.2. Now there are also some bugs in iOS 14.2 beta 2. And the first thing I want to talk about is the icon issue. So for some reason in iOS 14.2 beta 1, there was an issue, and this still persists in beta 2, by the way, as well. So this has not been resolved yet, but when you're playing music, sometimes you see how it shows the little icon of the source. So you can see all this, the source is from Apple Music, but sometimes it'll show like a TV icon if you're playing something from the TV application, or YouTube if you're playing something from the YouTube application, or Spotify, Pandora, whatever it is. Sometimes it will show the wrong icon. So I've had a lot of people tell me that when they play Pandora specifically, that it actually shows the music icon, or it shows like the YouTube icon, and it doesn't show the Pandora icon in the bottom right hand corner when they're playing their music. So that's one thing that has still not been resolved in beta 2, but I'm sure that will be fixed pretty soon. Now, I've also had some people report that the clock widget issue is back, or some people said that it's actually not fixed at all. So for me personally, my clock widget has really never been off, I don't believe. I mean, I've never really noticed it. I don't look at it and study it, for the full 60 seconds to make sure it's spot on, but it seems to be perfectly fine for me here in 14.2 beta 2, but some people have reported that that issue has come back. Now, also in my iOS 14.2 beta 1 follow-up video, I did talk about how I had Apple Music issues with like pausing. It would just randomly freeze, and sometimes it wouldn't play the music, for like another 30 seconds. So there'd be like a 30-second delay, and then it would play the next song. And, I kind of just chalked it up to being a network issue, but I'm still having that here in beta 2. And I know it's not a network issue. So I am still having some issues with Apple Music for some reason here in iOS 14.2 beta 2, just some intermittent like pausing and not being able to go to the next track. So pretty annoying. So let me know if you're having that issue as well down in a comment below. Now, some people are also reporting that they are not getting notifications from people in their pinned messages section right here. So if you have a pinned contact, some people are reporting that they're not getting notifications properly from those contacts. So I've not had an issue at all with messages, but I have heard that in 14.0.1 as well. So that does not appear to be a new issue in 14.2. Now, as far as performance goes in 14.2 beta 2 over the past couple of days, I've actually noticed a pretty noticeable improvement over beta 1. So I've been playing some games here on this device. So I've been playing things like Call of Duty Mobile. I played Mario Kart as well. And I've actually noticed that things seem to be a little bit less choppy than beta 1. Now, one other thing that I complained about was going into YouTube and then going back out onto the home screen. And when I would open up another application, there would be like a stutter, and the audio in the background of that YouTube video would stutter. And that's actually been fixed in beta 2. So I did not have that issue here in beta 2 like I did in beta 1. And I also had that on 14.0.1 as well. So it seems like beta 2 fixed that, but of course I will continue monitoring to see if that's been fixed for sure or not. And hopefully it doesn't revert back in the next beta as well. But for now, it seems like YouTube background audio playback is working as expected. Now, of course, not all people are having a great experience because this is a beta. So I have had people report that they're having input lag here in 14.2 beta 1 and in beta 2. So it hasn't been fixed in beta 2 for some people. They're having input lag where they pretty much have to press on an icon multiple times for it to open. Some people are having the input lag with the keyboards, like when they type, it's just a very laggy keyboard and they can't like type properly. So they're having issues with the keyboard and just issues with overall, input. So that is one thing to be aware of, but that's kind of expected, maybe not expected, but that's kind of something you have to prepare for if you are going to install a beta, which is why I recommend never installing a beta on your daily driver unless it's deep into the beta cycle, which this of course is not. This is just the second beta. But as far as me personally, I've not really had too many issues at all with iOS 14.2 beta 2 on my iPhone 11 Pro or my iPhone 10R. Now, when it comes to the battery life feels exactly the same as beta 1 to me. I really did not notice any improvement or any decrease in my battery life here in beta 2. So it is still slightly worse than iOS 14 and 14.0.1, and of course iOS 13.7, but it's not bad. It's not draining. So I guess that's really all you can hope for on a beta, is that it just doesn't drain. And it's a plus if the battery is better, but that doesn't usually happen for betas until you're like much deeper into the beta cycle. So for me, the battery life is the same as beta 1, which unfortunately is still not quite as good as 14 or 14.0.1. So now let's take a look at the community poll here. So if you go to my channel and go to the community tab, you will see this poll right here. So I asked, how has iOS 14.2 beta 2 been for you so far? So I only asked this an hour ago, so there are only 3.4 thousand votes. So thank you to everybody who voted so quickly. But of course, this data will be updated and you can check out the updated stats on the community tab if you wish. But as it stands right now, 13% said excellent, no annoying bugs and good battery. 9% said good, just some minor bugs. 3% said decent, buggy and bad battery. 2% said terrible, they had to downgrade. And of course, 72% are not on 14.2 yet. I know a lot of people said they're not actually going to do the betas anymore after iOS 14.0 release, which is probably a good idea for the majority of people. But anyways, 13%. So we are in the lead here with excellent, which is a good sign for iOS 14.2 just in general. So it seems like a lot of people are having, a good experience so far on beta 2. So let's go ahead and read some of these comments. Now here's a strange one. There is a bug on my iPhone SE first gen where the time on the top of the screen is in another language. Everything else is fine. So I have not heard of that at all, but I would go ahead and maybe go into your settings and clock and see if anything has changed in there, and maybe just do a reset all settings if all else fails. I've never heard of that. So anyways, you can see here, iPhone 11 Pro, the bug where if you have AirPods in and you wake your phone up and it shows AirPods connected still hasn't been fixed for me, which by the way, guys, that is not a bug, that is intended behavior. I did say bug, but I was kind of just, not understanding the full, why it's doing that. Basically, the reason it's doing that is so that, since we have the new switching, the automatic switching feature now in iOS 14, it basically does that, shows you that notification every time you unlock your device, just to show that that's the device that they're connected to, since they could technically be connected to, a plethora of other devices like I have here. So it's not a bug, although I do wish that it was gone, or at least, a toggle to turn that on or off. You also see here, he says, my battery has been going down a little faster than normal. I'm noticing some input lag and hanging when using music and files to play audio. So that's what I was talking about. So some people are having that input lag, like I talked about here in iOS 14.2. So he says, especially when using music and files. So very interesting. And you can see here, Jill is having an issue with iPhone 11, not showing notifications properly sometimes. So that's an issue that I have heard people talking about as well. Maybe that has to do with the pinned messages as well. Battery life is great on the iPhone 11, and speed-wise, it's pretty good for a beta release. And also macOS Big Sur has been stable, and also watchOS 7 has been good and stable for me overall. So that's good to hear there. 14.2 on 11 Pro Max, keyboard lag occasionally, and a few apps, especially Facebook, crash often. So that is one thing to expect, app crashes. I've not had them personally, but that is pretty much, beta behavior. So again, with the keyboard lag and the input lag, so that is definitely something to be aware of if you're not installed yet and you were thinking of installing it, just keep that in mind. Just Dave said that it's been slightly better on my 10s Max, still see flashing widgets from time to time, and noticeably worse battery performance compared to beta 1. My battery health dropped from 100% to 97%, which is still good considering I got the iPhone in February. So the battery health dropping has nothing to do with software. It just has to do with rereading your battery and getting a better read on it. So he did say that he did have the flashing widgets, which is something I talked about in my last video, which is pretty strange. Basically, some people just saw just flashing widgets, on the home screen for about 10 to 15 seconds after they rebooted. So I've not had that, but I have seen people report that as well. So somebody else having a few bugs and even a crash that forced me to hard shut down my phone. AirPods are also not working great. A lot of times only showing one of them instead of both. So very interesting there. Your boy Kelvin is on an iPhone SE 2020 on 14.2 beta 2, and he said it's great. Battery life is decent. The only bug I have is the keyboard bug. So once again, a lot of people reporting that keyboard bug, and keep in mind, people were also reporting that with iOS 14 and 14.0.1 as well. And then Little Caesar here is having bad battery drain issues on 14.2 beta 2. So some mixed results overall, which is to be expected with a beta release especially, but you guys can see there what everybody has to say. And then finally, I wanted to talk about what we can expect next from Apple in terms of iOS releases. So I would expect both 14.2 beta 3 and iOS 14.1 sometime in October, and we may even see 14.2 final at the end of October, but I'm starting to think that we will not see 14.2, the final release, until early November, but I'll talk about that here in a second. So I would think that the week of the 5th is possible for an iOS 14.2 beta 3. But if we are sticking to a 2-week cycle, it would be the week of the 12th. So Apple could switch to a 1-week cycle and start releasing iOS 14.2 betas every week. And if that were the case, that means we would get 14.2 beta 3 on the week of the 5th. So probably on the 6th or the 7th, maybe even the 8th. But keep in mind that the week of the 12th is going to be very interesting because that's when Apple is rumored to be holding the iPhone event, which I think that 14.1 will be released either at the end of that event or when the actual iPhones are released. So I think that the 13th, so October 13th, that Tuesday, is a very likely date that we could see iOS 14.1 released to the public. I don't think we're going to see a beta. I think Apple is just going to release iOS 14.1 to the public either on the 13th or whenever the Apple event is. After the Apple event, I think is when we'll see 14.1. If not, maybe later in the week when the actual iPhone 12s are released. So that's what I'm thinking. But of course, who knows? Apple loves throwing curveballs and could change anything up whenever they want. But anyways, guys, there you have it. That is just a quick follow-up update on iOS 14.2 beta 2. Of course, let me know how it's been running for you down in the comments below. And if you guys enjoy this video and if you enjoy these types of videos, I would appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.